Hey y'all, and welcome to Life Will Be. I'm your host, Lydia T. Blanco, and as always, I am grateful for your support. Thank you for tuning in, listening with your heart, and deciding that this is how you want to spend your time. If this is your first time here, I'm not sure if someone mentioned it to you or you were searching for a podcast to listen to. Either way, I'm so glad that you are here. And if you've been tuning in for years with the name change from one thing to the next, thank you. Your support is never unnoticed. I get so hyped about conversations that we get to have here together on Life Will Be. Today, I want to talk about the idea that you are closer than you think and how to overcome self neglect. I went back and forth about what the title was going to be and what I would actually dive into conversationally. But then I was like, okay, Lydia, this is not just for you. Someone may need to hear this, right? Hence the podcast. But it's really for me, though. It really is for me, okay? I have been doing my work for a while now, and I'm always in reflection, but also happy when things are brought to my attention that I am like, I actually am on my mark, or things that are brought to my awareness that means that I need to go a little bit deeper and identify where some of these things are coming from. And recently, while doing my work, I realized that I have found ways to neglect or abandon myself. And a form of this is disassociation. Now, disassociation is a big word, right? Not because of the number of letters in the word, but because of the, I guess, medical terminology and the definition, right? The disconnection or separation of something from something else, or the state of being disconnected, right? Is how the Oxford American Dictionary describes disassociation. I think when I first heard the word, I was caught off guard by it because I was like, oh my gosh, I've defined some of my experience, or I've described, better yet, some of my experiences as feeling like I was out of my body, or like I was just moving and passing through, but not really feeling. And so that is attributed to disassociation. But there are people who throw words around like that, and, narcissism and all these other big, heavy words that just don't apply all the time, right? So when looking for the title in my brain, okay, hmm. And so overcoming self neglect is real. So many of us have the experience of abandonment in relationship with others, but I haven't heard much about self abandonment and neglect conversationally. I want to talk about it because one of the things that I am working on is identifying my needs, being present. I often talk about being where my feet are. And while I was speaking with someone, they reminded me of the need to do that. And I want to just, continue to be honest and transparent here on this journey with you all. And so I want to share some ways that are, you know, I guess tangible as you think about how you can overcome that aspect of neglect and abandonment and live fully and live freely, right? First thing is your life is proof that you are here for a reason. Every day that you wake up is an opportunity to move forward with your life and look inward. And hopefully that will lend itself to the onward experience, right? When we can't see or feel ourselves, we become disconnected from ourselves, from the world around us, from others who we are in relationship with, in spaces. And it's easy to think that you are behind. You're not behind. I am not behind. We have these experiences where we're made to think or feel like we aren't who we say we are, or we aren't who we think we are. And I wanted you to just think back on some moments in your life and the things that you've overcome, and allow that to be a reminder and evidence that you are like it, like you've got it. You are who you think you are, okay? Sometimes it just takes jogging your memory to remember the fact that it's been you all this time. You know, when I was writing down you're closer than you think you are in overcoming self neglect, think about that inward experience and the significance of introspection. One of the things that I do to remind myself that I am alive and well and breathing and moving is by touching myself. Okay? That may sound inappropriate to some, but I'm talking about my kneecaps, my legs, my arms. Here in America, we talk about, oh, I want to pinch myself to make sure that this moment was real. But there is something so spectacular about touching yourself to ground yourself within your own body and your own mind. Sometimes you do feel like, okay, wait, am I really where I'm at? But you are in your body, okay? Contrary to whatever your belief may be at the moment, you are yours in that way. And so, giving yourself daily reminders by touching yourself is so important. Placing your hand over your heart, your eyes, a powerful song, which I have translated into prayer, an affirmation, if you will, is give me eyes to see, ears to hear, a mind to know, and a heart to understand. And as I say that, at times, I literally go about my body and I touch it. I go from my eyes, my ears, I touch my temples, and I'm touching myself now. You can't see me because this is audio only, this episode. But it is so important to feel yourself. It's so funny because people are like, oh, you feeling yourself, right? When they think you are very confident or arrogant. But I want to encourage you to feel yourself, okay? Literally touch your body, okay? And embody the attitude, the confidence that comes with the idea of feeling yourself. You are closer than you think you are. It's not about a destination, a goal that you are trying to reach. It's about you. I say it often. I'm going to say it again right now. How you live your life is your business. We are whole beings. We are spiritual beings. We are human beings. It is our business to remind ourselves and to show up in our fullness, right? Everywhere you go, you have to take yourself with you, right? And aside from a destination, you are closer than you think. You have to take care of yourself, take care of your mind, take care of your teeth, okay? Because it's connected to your heart. Take care of your finances. Be a good steward of your time. Take care of what you say you value. And that starts with who you are. Some of us have the experience of showing up for everyone but ourselves. That is a form of neglect. Some of the ways that you can alleviate some of those behaviors is by creating those boundaries, being honest about the time that you have and the time that you do not have. Some people may treat you like you have all the time in the world because you show up like you have all the time in the world. Okay? And you wonder why you're running raggedy, you can't rest, you're overthinking and frantic. And it's because the boundary is not there. Having a lack of boundaries, or I should say, a lack of boundaries, results in self betrayal. Not being able to keep your word to yourself, not allowing your actions to align with morals, beliefs, boundaries, okay? Promises that you've made to yourself is a form of betrayal. I was introduced to some kind of exam, I'll say, like a quiz about self sabotage, right? Because I feel like self sabotage is a part of self neglect because we're not thinking about needs. We're thinking about sometimes like the other things, like the worst possible outcomes or being in control. So many different things. And as I like work through who I am and how I show up in all my relationships across the board, I was given a quiz about self sabotage. And I was ready to move forward from one thing to the next. And I took this quiz, and some of the things I already knew. Yeah, perfectionism. I was thinking about being a recovering perfectionist, but I guess I'm still in recovery. Okay. And I can't even remember all the things I came up. But if you Google it, it probably will come up for you. I probably should have bookmarked it and gave it out as a resource here. But it's just so interesting because I never thought about self sabotage as a form of self neglect. So, what do I have to say to that? Be patient with yourself, okay? It's so easy to jump to conclusions, okay? Some of us got hops when it comes to jumping to conclusions, okay? But on a serious note, I was serious, but like on a more serious note, be patient with yourself, be patient with others, find ways to be patient with yourself. Maybe don't use the microwave, okay? If you have to have everything heated up and ready and you're always gonna go, maybe boil that water on the stove. Make your oatmeal on the stove. You know, walk instead of driving somewhere that you can get to by foot. Remind yourself of the importance of different processes while you're waiting. I know I went from some really basic tips to things that are theoretical, right? But also very doable. But there's so many different ways to practice patience with yourself. When I think about some of the things that I do, it's doing my nails. Now, I know that is pretty vain, but it's also a part of like my self maintenance and care and presentation, all things that matter to me, right? But I really have to take my time. It's so easy to just be like, oh, I'm gonna do X, Y, or Z, right? But when you want your cuticles cleaned up, you're like, oh, let me actually set aside 2 hours because this is going to take me a while. I'm going to scrub my feet. Well, I know it's going to take me this long on one foot and another foot. And so it's being faithful and patient with yourself in the little things. So the big things that come up don't seem as hard, but the little things give you the confidence for the large things that you have to address and tackle and overcome in life, right? Some of us run or shy away from different happenings in life, I would just say. And it's because we're not incorporating little habits, micro habits, that will serve as like the building blocks and the proof that we need in our life that we can commit, we can show up, and we can execute. It's so easy to do that at work for others. And when You operate in life like you have something to prove. How about you prove it to yourself so you can show up for yourself? How about that? Okay. What else do I have written down here? I know I've been a little spicy, but along those lines, sometimes you got to keep it a little spicy with yourself, but also remember to cut the negative self talk. I woke up this morning and I had taken down my braids, combed out my hair, and I'd done these things last night. And I woke up and I was like, wow, I said something really funny, but also just like to the left about how my hair looked. Now, as a Black woman, I'm not going to repeat what I said about myself, right? As a form of protection, but also as a real life example of needing to be mindful about your self talk. When I said what I said about my hair, I was like, Lydia, don't give permission to anyone else to say what you said about your hair back to you. And I corrected myself. I was like, Lydia, you're beautiful. You have a head full of hair. Okay, praise God. And, you know, I have these hair goals for myself. Started using sacred drops and Beyonce's sacred oil. And I'm like, oh, let's see how this works. But I'm like, can we also work on how we talk about our hair, first thing in the morning? Like, since then, I've done my hair and all things and jazzed it up. And I was like, wow, I didn't even take you that long, right? Like, you've been doing this for a long time. You've been doing your hair since you were like 6, 7 years old. Like, you got this. Mood of mine changed immediately. I went from cracking a joke on myself to reminding myself of who I am. That is the point. You have to correct yourself in real time so that you don't become unrecognizable to yourself because of the things that you say and believe, because you've repeated them, you put them out into the world, the universe, and now they have taken form because those are the things that you said about yourself passively or in a very convicting way. And now they've manifested in your life. Oof, you have to be careful. Okay, and take it from somebody who has had both experiences, right, of correcting myself and being like, see why that showed up. I gotta stop saying that. But talk about needs. No one was talking about that. It was me. I am so good at meeting everybody else's needs. I told y'all about my calendar. I got a good memory. All the things. I'm like, oh, they said they wanted this. They like that. Oh, yeah. But when it comes to me, Lydia T, baby, I struggle. And I think one of the ways that I have neglected myself is by not being aware of, honest about, or clear about my needs. I have told you all before that I've struggled with I got it syndrome, which was coined by Elaine Faulkner, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully, I didn't pronounce her last name incorrectly. But now I am focusing on my needs, not addressing your unmet needs will take you out. Okay? You have to have your needs met in life. Reciprocity is enjoyable, it's fulfilling, it is something that I need so badly. We all have our needs, and when they go unmet, I feel like it's hard for us to meet ourselves. So be clear, do the work, get quiet, partner with a health professional to help you identify what some of your needs are. You have to do your work, okay? And you also have to have your needs met. You are exactly who you think you are. You've had the experiences and the glimpses. That is confirmation. I don't know if there's anything else that you need. Most times we have everything that we need, and we want to claim one thing when it's really fear, which makes me think about imposter syndrome. People love talking about imposter syndrome. You go to any conference, there's going to be a panel about it, okay? And what I think is more real than imposter syndrome is the reality that so many of us, and I'm including myself, are afraid of experiencing our fullness. I remember growing up with so many brilliant people. They applied that brilliance and that hustle to things that did not serve them. And I remember after losing friends, I want to say my junior year in college, he was murdered. I realized that this was a conclusion, just being in a relationship with this person as a friend and observing so much of their experience, that they were afraid of their own potential, their own greatness. And so much of that fear and indecision caused them to get caught up. And, that it resulted in what it did. And that broke my heart. To know someone is so great. And then when I think about myself, right, I have to remind myself, do not be afraid of your greatness. Roar, Lydia, say it with your chest, mean it. All of the things. You're not an imposter. You might be afraid, but it is time to get out of your own way. You are also very great, okay? And you have to know that. You have to believe that for yourself. No amount of validation you can see, books you can read, podcasts you can listen to can confirm that for you. Not even me. And I know I'm the one that's saying it, okay? But the Most High is amazing, okay? And as a child of the Most High, I feel like it's my duty to remind you of that, right? Honestly, regardless of what you believe, okay, I'm gonna tell you anyway. You listening, what up? But you have to know that. I feel like that fear of your own greatness is deadly, right? It costs you so much, and at times it can cost you your life. I don't even know if it's living as an imposter. I think it's living below your blessing, living below standard, living below your character, like who you've been called to be. I'm going to say it again. You are exactly who you think you are. You've had the experiences and the glimpses. That is confirmation. Not the worst parts that you have imagined, because your mind is running free and you may not be optimally regulated, right? But that inclination of your greatness, when you know, it is in you. You have proof. Allow that to be enough and allow your memory to serve you well. I'm not going to belabor this because I could go on and on, but I think you get it. And I think that I've gotten what I've needed in sharing. So if this has been something that has met you where you are and resonates, let me know. You can drop a comment, depending on what listening platform you are streaming this on. You can always email me at letsworklydia@gmail.com or say hi on social media at Life Will Be Pod or at Lydia T. Blanco on Instagram. I also have a TikTok set up for this, but y'all, me and social media, I love that it exists. I get a lot of good loves in. I love sharing my content, but baby, I'm not social media influencer. Okay? So sometimes I'm like, second nature, not so much all the time. So aside from that rant, stay connected. Let me know what your thoughts are if this resonates. And I look forward to being back and being solo as a host of this show, just having some guests, okay? It has been real, y'all. Be kind to yourself, be patient, and remember who you are. You got this. Peace.